we discover worship is used for the first time in an unexpected place in the scriptures. Listen, there are no keyboards, there are no microphones the first time it's used, there are no choirs, there is no stage, no lights. In some churches, this is going to be tough to hear, but there were no smoke machines, there is no LED wall, no one was selling coffee in the lobby, so for the worship, there was nothing there. There are only two people at this worship service. One is a 100-year-old man, and the other is a teenager. And today, I want to let that 100-year-old man teach us what worship is. Where is it, Pastor Tim? It's the Genesis 22 story. It's when God asked Abraham to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. It's unthinkable and it's unprecedented, but it is the definition that God chose, the place that God chose to insert the word worship and said, build from here. Don't build from a stage and don't build from music. Build worship from this spot right here on holy ground. So let me take you to that spot where worship is first used. Genesis 22, let me read this to you today. This is what it says. Now it came about after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here am I. And he said, take now your son, your only son whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains of which I will tell you. So Abraham, and this always gets me every time I read it, to think of the command in verse 2 and to think that this man rises up early in the morning. Well, I would have tried to delay this obedience. He rises early in the morning, saddles his donkey, took two of his young men with him and Isaac his son. He split the wood for the burnt offering, arose and went to the place which God had told him. Verse 4, on the third day, Abraham raised his eyes, saw the place from a distance. And here it comes, Times Square Church. And Abraham said to his young men, stay here with the donkey, and I and the lad will go over there. Now say out loud these next four words, and we will worship. First time it's ever used. And we will worship and return back to you. Times Square Church, for just a moment, God asked Abraham to offer Isaac, this miracle child, as a burnt offering, and Abraham called that act worship. He chose that to be the cornerstone from understanding what worship is. Not a keyboard, not a sound studio. He chose this section of scripture and said, this is what's going to be. You see maybe a perplexed 100-year-old man, a confused teenager going, what is this? And God is about to define worship for us that have lost its way, for a church that have lost its way. But I think there's something here for all of us today. And by the end of this service, my prayer is that we're all worshipers in this place. You know, let me give you a little side note. As I was reading this, there is a little word that I want you to see as we build from here. And I wanted to skip over it because there's going to be two moments that I think is important. We're going to have to dig a little bit. And here's the first spot, because I'm going to use grammar here for just a moment. And grammar describes the overuse of this little word with a big word. And I have to say it because it happens 12 times in two verses, 12 times. But it's called, here it is, it's called polysyndeton. Now that is this giant word to describe a little word. And I'm going to explain it to you in a second. Because in verse 3 and 5, here it comes now. You are going to see, here's where the polysyndeton is. The word and, the overuse of this word, is used 7 times in verse 3, and then another 5 times in verse 5. Let me read it to you, and you'll see it. Verse 3, and Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took 2 young men, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood with the burnt offering, and rose up, and went into the place of which God had told him. 7 times It's like rapid fire. And as soon as you catch your breath, you're back to verse 5. And Abraham said to the young men, abide here with the donkey. And I and the lad will go yonder, and we will worship, and then we will come again to you. Now, 12 times, it's not there. It comes in rapid fire. But why is this important? Why is this literature, this grammar word important, polysyndeton? Here it is. Because when you see this word and so many times, it's emphasizing the specifics and the particulars, and it's this non-stop continuance until the task is done. What he was saying was, if God said it, I will take care of every detail. And I will do it until it's done because God has asked me to do this. He's literally, it's persistence without a breath till you get the job done, until you get it to the finish line. That's what Abraham was doing. God spoke to him, take your son to Mount Moriah. And then all of a sudden, in rapid fire, rose up early in the morning. And then you see it, 12 connections, 12 phrases connected to this word and. And to get to the part, what he was doing was, those 12 ands were all pointing to one thing, to an act of obedience. What was Abraham performing? It was worship, is what he said. He said it's going to be fast, persistent, and complete. And what's amazing is that when Abraham calls worship, listen, Times Square Church, there was no singing involved. No one was singing a song, but yet it's called worship. And here it is. Worship is not simply singing. Worship is obedience. That's what he was telling us. That's what worship is. In another sense, worship is loose hands, like Corey Ten Boom said, because in this incident, God was asking Abraham to let go of something. It was the great Bible teacher, Kay Arthur, who said it like this. She said, if you do not plan to live the Christian life totally committed to knowing your God and walking in obedience to him, she said this, then don't even begin. For this is what Christianity is all about. I love this. It's a change of citizenship. It's a change of government. It's a change of allegiance. If you have no intention of letting Christ rule your life, then forget about Christianity. It's not for you. That's, seriously, folks, know what that is? That's loose hands talk. That's what that is. She was telling us, don't hold on, because when you say we worshiped, we have let go of everything and said, God, you're in charge now. Nothing is off limits to you.